This is Mr. L. Anthony Karoxin, Assistant Professor from TSM College of Engineering and Technology in Tirunelveli. And in this video, we are going to discuss about the construction techniques, equipments, and practices.
On the construction techniques, equipments and practices, we are going to see about the superstructure construction. Already we have seen about the substructure construction in our previous video. Now we are going to see about the superstructure construction. It's nothing but the construction which are above the foundation levels is known as the superstructure constructions. And these are the topics we are going to discuss in this video. First one is launching girders, next is bridge decks, third is offshore platforms, and the materials for wall finish, that is interior and exterior walls, and the walls for paneling materials, and the materials for architectural finish, then the high-rise structures, and the materials that are used to be handled in the construction, and the support structures for heavy equipments and conveyors. Now we can see one by one. Initially we have to see about the site erection methods that are used in the construction. In the site erection method, the first one is a slide sloping method. This is a method of construction of the superstructure. It is used to erect girders where steel or precast concrete girders over temporary support by the side of the pier, and it's opposed to the span, and when ready, sloping same into position. And this method is adopted when the erection or the casting of the girder is done simultaneously with the construction of the piers, and is mainly used for the new construction. It will be common for both railways and road bridges, and the major difference is deck, except for linking of the rails in case of railway bridge, and weathering course and parapet in case of the road bridges. For a new bridge, the stacking for casting will have to be put up by the sides of the piers on one side, and in case of replacement, similar stacking will have to be erected on one side. It's for receiving the old girders and dismantling them into the pots before being taken out to the stores. Now we are going to see about the launching methods that are used in the construction of the superstructure elements. In the launching method, we are going to see about the end launching method. This end launching method is adapted mainly for the long span pre-stressed concrete and steel girders, and is mostly used for the new construction. In this, the girder is cast and or built up on the approach bank, and it is longitudinally traversed over the opening, and it has a span and lowered in position. And for this purpose, a temporary intermediate stacking has to be provided in the gap between the piers for taking the girders across the gap. Now we are going to see about the launching girders. It is a fully precast concrete girders that is not launched independently, as a cantilever stress developed is considerably and the design is somewhat difficult. And this method is adapted to first launch a steel or aluminum supporting frame or a girder so that it spans over the gap. Once the launching of the girder over the gap is on one side is over, we have to make the first girder is moving over the temporary girder or frame, and it's supported at intervals, or it should be pulled across each other. And the main girder launch here is then lowered into position with the help of the jacks, and the next girder cast and ready on the approach is then launched longitudinally, and the process has to be repeated till all the permanent girders are in position. The girders of the next span can be longitudinally taken over the girders, and it should be erected in the previous span and then over the temporary girder on the next span, and the process has to be repeated until they are in position. Now we are going to see about the erection of concrete girders with the help of the cranes or derricks. The girders can be casted on the bed by the side of the span, and they can be erected by using two mobile cranes, one on either side, and with the help of the suitable derrick in the center, or one derricks on either side of the end. If the height of the pier is not much and the girders are too heavy to be handled by the available crane or derrick, the girder can be jacked up from the either end of the temporary trestles to the pier top level, and then sides are slewed in position, and they are launched and slewed as the maximum weight. And in case of the pre-stressed concrete girders, there will be a transverse pre-stressings, which in the case of they can use cranes or derricks. And with necessary ducting should be casted after all the girders are launched correctly and they are just in position. And this stage of pre-stressing is done to take maximum advantage of pre-stressing. They are lifted or launched and remain cables are tensioned, and some before and balanced after or off the deck is casted according to the design. And in such post-tensioning, extreme care has to be taken in the following sequence. That has to be given by the designers, and any small change can cause a crack in the system or unwanted lateral reflection in the girder. Now we are going to see about the cantilever methods that are adapted. It's used for the large span. The method of which is used is the cantilever method, and in this cantilever method the erection starts from the abutment end, and the erection of the members ahead is done by using a crane which travels on the bottom boom of the previously erected part of the structure, and it can be used in case of the steel and by using the support on the previously erected part structure in case of a pre-stressed concrete construction. Now you can see some of the bridges that are constructed using cantilever, steel, and some of with the simply supported method. The Howrah bridge is one of the one which is used as a cantilever steel. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is made of the steel arch, and the second Godavari Bridge is made of the simply supported steel method. And this is one of the cantilever method. Now we are going to see about the bridge decks. The grade line of a highway or railway track and the clearance required under the bridge decide the use of the deck bridge or which type of bridge we are using. And in case of sufficient clearance is unavailable under the bridge, the deck type bridge are advantageous when compared to other types of bridge, that is throw type bridge, and it's somewhat economical and somewhat relatively used in the bridges, and the height of piers and abutments are reduced in the deck types of bridges. This is the pictorial representation of the deck type bridges which are used in the construction. And now we are going to see about the materials of wall finish. From the name itself we can know the materials that are used for the finishing of the wall to get somewhat good appearance and pleasing appearance in the construction. So these are the functions of the walls, is to separate the spaces from each other vertically, but it may also carry some load, and it should be against the effects of walls, moisture, water, moisture, heat, noise, light, fire, etc. And it can be analyzed in three layers, that is interior coating, core, and the exterior coating. And we are going to see about the functions of the coating that change depending upon the position of the wall. First one is exterior coating, that takes a role in the formation of architectural character of the building. It's also resistant to atmosphere, mechanic and chemical effect, and it's easy to clean. Saying about the interior coatings, it's also named as a interior finishing. It doesn't have a contact with the temperature or any water changes, and then therefore does not have heat and water problems. And saying about finishing, has to be porous enough to emit noise and provide acoustic balances. And the interior finishing has to be non-flammable, vapor permeable, and it should be non-toxic. And now we are going to see about the types of wall finish that are used in the construction. The first one is plaster, next gypsum wallboard, next woods, next concrete block, next tile cladding, the next one is stone, next one is bricks, next one is glass, next one is resin, next one is paint, next one is wallpaper, and the final one is vinyl wall coverings. These are the types of wall finishes that are used in the construction to finish the walls to get a pleasing appearances. Now you can see one by one. Plaster. Plaster is one of the oldest technique which is used as a over the concrete blocks or the wall boards to be applied by using the lathe, and the textures of this plaster ranges from smooth to stucco, and it's often chips and cracks, and as a house settles over a period of time. So this is one of the pictorial representation where the plaster is used as a wall finishing material. The next one is gypsum wall board. As we all know that the gypsum is a material which is used as a plastering material for the wall finish, which gives us a pleasing and a beautiful appearance to the structure. So here the gypsum wall boards is the most commonly used material to cover the interior projects, and it's a dependable material that is quickly easy to install and easy to repair, and it's made from a natural crystallized minerals which is known as sedimentary rock by the volcanic action, and it's a wall board which is naturally fire resistant, and it also have a sound barrier effect. The joints are taped, fill the holes are repaired, and they are sanded. So this is the pictorial representation of gypsum wall board, which is used as a finishing material in the construction. And now we are going to see about the woods which are used as a finishing material. As we all know that the woods comes in the form of paneling and plank, and it's used for flooring, wall finishing, etc. And it provides a warmth and it's a good insulator, but it tends to be fade and it is flammable. So considering by taking the wood, it is flammable, so it should be avoided where is so flammable area. So this is a pictorial representation of wood which is used as a finishing material in the construction. Now we are going to see about the concrete blocks. Concrete blocks is most widely used in the construction, which is also known as the concrete masonry unit, and is a very common building material which is used for a load bearing structure of the buildings. And this sort of construction is very affordable and is found in commercial and institutional applications. This is the pictorial representation of the concrete block which is used as a wall finish in the construction. Next we are going to see about the tile cladding. Nowadays tile cladding, for example granite, marbles, glazed tiles are used for the tile cladding, and they are available in various colors and shapes, and depending upon the tiles and the where it has to be placed, the tile cladding material is used for the wall finishing, and it can be installed on one tile at a time, or it can be used as a group of sheets which is held together with a mesh like bracing, and it provides easy maintenance, and they are water impervious. So the water impervious means we can use in many restrooms, in case of homes we can use this in toilets, and it can be a great noisy interiors. So these sort of tile claddings are used as a finishing materials in the walls in the construction. And now we are going to see other wall finishes that are used in the construction. Stone is one of the material which is used as a wall finish for the construction. The first figure represents the how stone is used as a wall finish in the construction. And next one is the brick. Brick is also used as a wall finish in the construction. So this image represents how bricks is used as a wall finish in the construction. And other wall finishes that are used in the construction are glasses, which is used as a major wall finishing equipment. By using glass, it will give a pleasing appearance and it will be attractive, and it's also a transparent material. So these sort of wall finishes is used in the construction. And next one is the resin wall finishing, which is used with the fiber is used in case of the resin, so it will also be used as a wall finishing material in the construction. And other types are wallpapers. Wallpapers nothing but the elements which in the form of the sheets which will be placed in the walls for the it will give pleasing appearance to the construction. So it's mainly used for the wall finishes and also used for the floorings. And next one is vinyl wall coverings. It's also one of the major wall finishes which is used nowadays. So these are some of the wall finishes that are used in the construction industry. And now we are going to see about the wall paneling materials. Saying about the paneling materials, it is a decorative treatment of walls and ceilings, and it consists of a series of wide thin sheets called panels, and they are formed together by a narrow or thicker strips of wood and it's also synthetic material, glass and other materials. And it's a decorative panel of various shades, textures, finishing, and can be utilized to glamorize the ambience of the room. And used decoration comes in the variety of shapes, textures, finishing, materials and sizes. And the paneling is not only aims at the concealing the flaws of the walls, but also gives a fresh look and the stylish look to the room. And now we are going to see the materials that are used to make the wall panels. First, the wood finishing paneling. Second one is veneer paneling. Third one is laminate paneling. Fourth one is MDF paneling. Fifth one is PVC paneling. Sixth one is gypsum paneling. And the final one is fabric paneling. Now you can see one by one. First, we are going to see about the wood finish paneling. From the name itself, we can know that they are using the wood as a finishing for the paneling materials. The woods that are used for the paneling are teak, mahogany, oak, walnut, etc. And the paneling can be in the form of planks, blocks or other panels. Here one can use wood of different shapes and sizes for forming patterns of one choice, and depending upon your selection of the hardwood, either it's a teak, mahogany, oak or walnut, anything else, there are variety of shades of woods are available for wood paneling. This is the pictorial representation of wood finish paneling, which is used in the construction industry. Next we are going to see about the veneer paneling. It's also one of the paneling which is replacing the wood in many interior packets. Some of the interior panelings are like wood, but it's not wood, that is veneer paneling. It's a thin layer or a slice of wood that is fixed on a backing board. It gives a wood-like look and it's cheaper when compared to that of any natural wood. And these panels are light-weighted and the installation is a very quick process, and it's also available in same colors as that of wood, and variety of colors also available in the market. And the painting or polishing the veneers is similar to that of the wood surface, and nowadays it's widely used in residences, schools, auditoriums, commercial buildings, etc. This is the type of the wood paneling which is used as a paneling material in the construction. Now we are going to see about the laminate paneling. Saying about the laminate paneling, it is one of the most effective way of paneling of the wall surface, and it is similar to that of the veneer paneling. Here the laminate paneling can be attached by using of the glue to plyboard or any other backing boards, and it gives toughness and firmness to it, so we can screw the panels or the frames or the wall surface. As we all know that the laminates are easily available in sheets that become both glossy and matte finishes, and they are available in numerous variety of shades and textures and sizes. This is the typical representation of the laminate paneling which is used in the construction. Next we are going to see about the MDF paneling. MDF paneling is nothing but the medium density fiberboard paneling, in which the fibers are used and thereby make a resin, and they can be used as a paneling material. And this is cheaper than plywood, but it is hard and can sink under heavy load. So they are available in plain texture finishes, and they have various thickness in this paneling of boards, and the surface can be easily painted by using a regular paint, and they are available in 3D panels of various sizes and shapes and structures in the market, and they have sculptured wall arts and decorative that are all available in the medium density fiberboard panels. And this is one of the pictorial representation of the medium density fiberboard panels which are used in the construction industry. And now we are going to see about the PVC panels. PVC panels is nothing but the polyvinyl composite panels which they are having a hollow core and are lightweight, and they having a smooth surface for decorations, and can be installed very easily. And these panels are easy to cut, hence it becomes easy to work on such panels. So they are like pre-laminated type panels, and they are directly fixed in the frames. It's very easy to maintain, and they are fire resistant, hygienic, and they are durable. And these set of polyvinyl composite panels are available in glossy and matte finishes, and they have a protective layer that resists dust, and it's also waterproof, and it's somewhat easy to clean. So these set of polyvinyl composite panels are used in the construction. This is one of the pictorial representation where polyvinyl composite panels are used in the construction. Now we are going to see about the fabric paneling. Fabric paneling, which gives a softer feel and smooth appearance to the structure. So we can directly place the paneling on the smooth backing board or wall, and we can use materials like polyester, jute, leather, etc. for fabric panels, and they are readily available fabric panels, and they are directly fixed on the frames. These act as sound insulated, and they can be acoustical materials. So these set of fabric panels with the low density fiber board is usable as a soft board for our rooms, classrooms, etc. And they are also used as a material in children's rooms, schools, etc. This is the pictorial representation of the fiber paneling which will be used in the construction. Now we are going to see about the high-rise structures. In the high-rise structures, we are going to see about the transmission towers. Transmission towers are nothing but the towers that are used to transmit some of the radiations, which is nothing but the radio towers, television towers, etc. So they are tall structures with relatively small cross section, and the ratio having the height and the maximum element. So the towers are also called as pylons or masts. And this tower is a single cantilever freely standing and self-supporting structure, and is fixed at the base of the structure, and they are pin connected to its foundation and braced with the elements. Similar examples are wall towers, water towers, radio towers, television towers, radio relay systems, etc. And these towers are power transmission lines, and they are used to support the transmission cables and then carry voltages up to 132,000 volts, and can be used for a long distance since these cables can carry heavy voltage, and they provide clearance where the transmission cables have a maximum sag. But generally all these towers are built up with 4 legs and spat suitably. This is because that the 4 legs give sufficient stability to the structure. And there are some different types of the transmission towers. They are self-supporting towers, flexible towers, line towers, angle towers, and self-supporting wide base. Now we can see one by one. Self-supporting towers are the towers that are generally rigid in the both transverse as well as the longitudinal direction. In case of flexible towers, it is not rigid in the longitudinal direction, that is in the direction of the transmission cable. Saying about the line towers, which is a straight portion of the power line, the line towers are preferred. In case of the angle towers, where the direction of the power line is changed, these sort of angle towers are preferred. And the height of the towers that are adapted should be within 20 to 40 meter. And these towers are also known as single, double, multiple towers, and they are depending upon the number of circuits supported by the towers. Single diagonal bracing tower, they have the long free length, and they are so much length, and the double bracing are cross diagonal towers. For example, for radio and television towers are self-supporting towers. For that, these towers are rigid diaphragms, and they are provided at the top and at several intermediate sections. It's to increase the stiffness of the cross sections. The vertical loads that are acting on the towers are the dead load and the live load. And the loads on the power transmission line, that includes self-weight of the tower, that's fittings, ice coatings, the lineman with tools, etc. And the self-weight can be found by using a general formula of Ryle's empirical formula. It's for suspension as well as the dead load towers. This is the pictorial representation of the transmission towers, which we had seen in the day-to-day life. So this is the transmission tower. And now we are going to see about the skyscrapers. Skyscrapers are nothing but they are the tall inhabitable buildings. The Emporis Data Committee is a committee which defines the skyscrapers and some of the tall buildings materials. They have some conditions to be applied in the case of constructions, and its headquarters in Germany. If a building which is 30 meter or greater in height and it's to be divided into regular interval and also into occupiable levels. Some structural engineers define this skyscraper as any vertical construction for which the wind is more significant load factor than the weight. And the first skyscraper is considered the Home Insurance Building, which is constructed in the Chicago. Until the 19th century, buildings of over 6 stories were rare. It was impractical to have people to walk up the many flights of stairs, and the water pressure could only provide running water to about the 50 level. That's up to 15 meter. These walls can support buildings up to about 4 story, while skyscrapers are larger buildings that support by a skeletal frame. And they also was a nautical term for a tall mast or a sail on a sailing ship. Now we are going to see about the material handlings. The material handling is the movement, storage, controlling of the materials, protecting the materials and the goods and products that are used throughout the process of manufacturing, distribution, consumption and disposal. The focus is on the methods, mechanical equipment systems and related control is used to achieve these functions. And these material handling consist of a proper technique for moving, transporting, storing or distributing materials with or without the help of the mechanical appliances. And these are the complexities in the construction process, and the management must be fully acquainted with the various material handling devices so that the unit of construction and the cost can be get down. And all these materials handling activities must be simplified and must be safe and fully safe, preventing any accidents. Also, material movements planning must be economical and in terms of time and the cost and the materials and the used and the manpower that is used in the movement of the construction materials. Now we are going to see about the material handling objectives. The objectives that are in the material handling are the right amount, the right material at the right time, at the right position, in the right sequence and for the right cost. These are some of the objectives of the material handling process. The handling of materials will be depend upon 3 items. They are items of identification of source of building material, and it's also based upon identification of quantity and quality of material. It's also based upon the cost of building materials. The handling of materials is based on some of the principles. Some of the principles are listed below. They are Oriental principle, planning principle, system principle, unit load principle, space utilization principle, standardization principle, agronomic principle, energy principle, ecology principle, mechanization principle, flexibility principle, simplification principle, safety principle, computerization principle, system flow principle, layout principle, cost principle, maintenance principle, and finally obsolescence principle. These are the principles that are followed in the material management. We are going to see about the material management. Its concern is with ensuring that the quality and quantity required are on the job as per requirement. It will mainly depend upon the and verify the quality, quantity and the price, delivery mode of transportation, inspection, counting, costing and the storage and protection. Considerable time and effort is spent on the practical network that will satisfy and resource limitations. And however, such a schedule is not useless unless supported by a delivery of times of materials. And the materials for delivery of the site can be classified into following, that is bulk items, standardized items, and the final one is fabricated items. Saying about bulk items, it's like the earth, bricks, cement, stone chips, steel sheets, asphalts, and they are obtained in the semi-processed states. Standard items is nothing but all the self items that can be procured from a market, like pipes and pipe fittings. Fabricated items are nothing but the items that are specifically built as per the specifications. For example, size of the doors for the projects that are built as per the specification, like roof truss, door, windows, electrical panels, etc. Now we are going to see about the support structure for the heavy equipments. In the support structure, we are going to see the following equipment that are used. The initial one is the column base. The column base is one of the support structure which is used for the heavy equipments. It is necessary for a column to distribute the column load on the sufficient area of the soil so that the bearing capacity of the soil is not exceeded. It is also equally important that the column load be applied on a sufficient area so that the concreting and so that the bearing strength of the concrete is not exceeded. So this is one of the supporting structure for the heavy equipments. And next one is a steel base plate is used to spread the column load on sufficient area of the concrete foundation. And these base plates is of following types: slab bases and gusseted bases. Saying about slab bases, in this column, in this case the column stands directly on the base plate, so the end of the column is machinized, so the column load is transferred to the slab by use of the bearings. Saying about the gusseted plates, it is very used in columns carrying heavy loads, and in this case fastenings are used to connect the base plates and the column in the form of gusset plates, angle, etc. And in this case, the end of the column is sufficiently machinized so as to provide the full bearing on the base plate, and it is usual to assume that the half of the column load is liable to be transferred and to the base plate through the fasteners, and the balance load is transferred to the base plate by direct bearing. These are some of the equipment that are used for the heavy load structures. And next one is the grillage foundation. It's provided for the column carrying heavy load which is transferred its load to the soil of low bearing strength, and here the foundation consists of the 2 or more layers or tiers of steel beams, and these layers are being provided one above the other and they are right angle to each other, which means they are perpendicular to each other, and these beams are completely encanced in the compared concrete, in a well compared concrete, and generally there are only 2 tiers of beams are used, and the column rests on the base plates through which the load is transmitted to the upper tier beams, and these beams in transfer the loads to the lower tier beams. From the lower tier beams, the load will be again transferred to the soil. This is all. This is somewhat about the supporting structure that are used in the to support the elements of the construction materials. Now we are going to see about the conveyors that are used in the construction to transport the materials from one place to another. Initially, conveyors is nothing but the transmitting materials over the stationary structure, and the advantages of the conveyors is to increase the output, to consume the time, that is time saving, and to continue the operations in a required manner and at the required time. And there are 3 types of conveyors that are used. They are the belt conveyor, second one is screw conveyor, and the final one is bucket conveyor. Now we can see one by one. First we are going to see about the belt conveyor. From the name itself we can know in that conveyor the belt is used for the transportation of materials. So it's one of the most popular conveyor methods, and consists of bed running over the pair of end drums, and they are supported by a rollers called idlers, and they are the middle sag is provided so that can prevent the spilling of materials. Some of the advantages of the belt conveyors are they can handle light, heavy, dry as well as wet. It can handle soft as well as coarse materials, and the speed, saying about the speed of the belt conveyor is somewhat high speed compared to other types of conveyors, and they are horizontal, they carry horizontal as well as inclined loads that acting on the conveyor. And saying about the weight of the conveyor, it's somewhat light in weight compared to other types of belt conveyors, and the discharge is also controlled by using this type of conveyors. This is the pictorial representation of the belt conveyor, which is used to transport the materials in the construction industry. And now we are going to see about the screw conveyors. Screw conveyor is nothing but the conveyor that is used for handling granular or pulverized materials. Saying about the cost, it is low cost compared to other types of conveyors, and it consists of a helix mounted on the bearing at the end and at the intermediate positions. And saying about the length of the conveyor, it is 65 meter, and about the inclination, it is about 35 degrees. So this is the pictorial representation of the screw conveyor, which is used to transport the materials in the construction industry. And now we are going to see about the bucket conveyors. From the name itself, we can know that the buckets are used for the transportation of the materials from one place to another. So materials is transferred through a series of buckets used there. So the length of the bucket conveyors are limited to 25 meters, and the weight depends upon the strength of the chains used in the bucket conveyors. So mainly it's used for handling coal, tar, etc. And this is the pictorial representation of the bulk bucket conveyors, which is used in the construction industry to transport the materials from one place to another. And this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.